A very common mix-up that we notice when we're showing off our animals, both at home or at a reptile expo, is the difference between a leucistic and an albinistic animal. People will very often see our blue-eyed Lucy Louie and the animals that he has produced that are for sale, and they'll say, oh my gosh, look at that albino, that's so cool. And while he is so cool, he's actually leucistic rather than albinistic. And today I was just gonna go over what the difference between those two color mutations are. So leucism is much more common in the wild, in nature, because you can have both total leucism and partial leucism. Partial lack of pigment would be piebaldism. Total lack of pigment in all of the skin is a fully leucistic animal. A fully leucistic animal such as Louie has no color pigment displayed. He doesn't have any pattern, he doesn't have any color, whereas an albino still has pale yellow, the ability to have a pale yellow color. They just have no melanin. Leucism is the lack of pigment. This does not affect their eyes. They can still have different colored eyes. We see in superfire ball pythons, it results in black eyes. Blue-eyed leucistics have blue eyes. Really, the leucism doesn't affect their eyes, it just affects their skin. Whereas in an albino, it will also affect the blood vessels in their eyes almost all of the time, resulting in this pink, red eye color, both in the whites and in the pupils. So it's very easy to tell that something is albino rather than leucistic, because if it has red eyes, it is definitely albino, versus if it has colorful eyes, it is most likely leucistic. We often call partial leucism piebaldism or piebald, pied, anything like that when we're talking about our animals. So in our own home, we have piebald ball python, we have piebald rats, and piebald mice. So we have a lot of pieds. In nature, you don't see a lot of albinistic animals reach adulthood. They are both easier targeted by predators for the inability to camouflage themselves, but also they take more UV damage and they have a harder time with their eyesight. They are more likely to be attacked by predators. A lot of times, if you're looking at like a pack style situation, animals that travel in packs, they will often push out an animal with like a color mutation of any kind. We see it all the time in things like flocks of chickens. They'll push out any chicken that looks different from them, or even attack and kill it because they don't want a predator to find that one and attack the rest of them. So because of that, we don't see as many albinistic animals finding mates and therefore passing on those genes. We don't see them reaching adulthood as often, and it is very unlikely to find one in the wild. That's why it's so cool to find an albino or a leucistic animal in the wild, is because they really don't have as much of an opportunity to reproduce, and these are genetic traits. But in captive bred situations, you can specifically choose which animals you are pairing together. So because albinism is a recessive gene, we know that if we pair a fully albino animal to a fully albino animal, or a albino to a het albino, we can reproduce that color mutation and create a beautiful animal that we can care for. We can keep them away from any kind of predators. We can keep them out of direct sun exposure, and they can live a wonderful, healthy life, even with a mutation that would cause them distress in the wild. So the next time somebody looks at your table, sees a leucistic animal, and calls an albino, you can give them the full difference between the two. Maybe point over at your piebald, tell them that is also an animal with leucism. Go ahead and give them a quick little lesson, because it is so fun to share that with people. They really appreciate the knowledge behind it. I've never had someone say, I don't care. When we told them the difference between an albino and a leucistic, they always seem pretty susceptible to like learning something new about the animal, especially if they're interested in purchasing it and having it as a pet themselves. These are beautiful animals, and we really like understanding as much as we can about them. So if you also found this interesting, let us know in the comments. Go ahead, if you're new, like, subscribe, and let us know what other kinds of videos you'd like to see from us, what other topics you'd like covered. Again, we keep mostly ball pythons, but we do have mice. We have some rats and African soft-furs that we could also show off and talk about the genetics behind. So if you're interested in anything like that, let us know, and I hope you enjoyed the video.